In this next session, we'll be talking about how healthy habits can bring peace to your home. Who doesn't want a peaceful home? Eating healthy, setting realistic schedules and a realistic pace, and having healthy habits all lead to having a more peaceful home environment. Think about it. What kind of environment are you creating in your home? Do you all speak kindly and respectfully to each other? Or are you more of a sarcastic and snarky family when you communicate? Sarcastic and snarky can be funny, but it can also hurt people's feelings. If you grew up in a family that yelled a lot and spoke sarcastically to each other, you may have passed that on to your generation as well. A lot of times we duplicate the home environment that we ourselves were raised in. Now, are those in your home more introverted or extroverted? Do you process things out loud, or do you keep them shoved in into yourself? If you're like most families, you probably have a combination of both in your home. The thing is, your child will be an expression of his or her environment. So what vibe does your child receive from you and your home environment? If your family are all loud communicators, your child is either going to suppress themselves to avoid the loudness, or they will also be a loud communicator. If your family doesn't ever talk about feelings or emotions, then your child will be one to suppress their feelings and emotions as well. They may even think that having feelings or emotions is wrong if it's something that your family never talks about. Healthy families are real families that go through real things and have real challenges. In order to create a healthy environment for us and for our children, it's important for these three things to be a part of your home. To be kind, to talk things through, and to attack the problem, not the person. Your child is going to have some problems. However, the problem is not your child. Let's say that again. Your child is going to have some problems. However, the problem is not your child. There are things that will trigger an unhealthy response from your child, but that's not your child's fault. I know for me, if I don't get a good night's rest, I can be grumpy the next morning. How I take my grumpiness out is that I don't want to talk to anyone in the morning. Normally, I'm a morning person and can be very chatty. However, if I'm quiet and not talking at all, my husband knows that I didn't sleep much the night before. My behavior is a result of my lack of sleep. Your child is going to have a lot of different behaviors. The thing is that behavior never comes out of nowhere. Behaviors are normally a result of a trigger. For me, lack of sleep causes me to not want to have conversation in the morning. The trigger was not sleeping. My behavior is a result of the trigger. And the better you get at recognizing the things that trigger your child with autism, the more peaceful your home will be. Your child may have a lot of triggers, and those triggers are going to cause behaviors. Your job, figure out the triggers. And if your child is having a meltdown, don't feel sorry for yourself. Oh, poor me, he's going through a meltdown. It's more painful for your child than it is for you. Figure out what triggered the meltdown. The better you get at recognizing the things that trigger your child with autism, the more peaceful your home will be. The more and more that you figure out what habits will lead to a peaceful home, the more peaceful your home will be. When our son would eat things containing MSG or preservatives, his whole body would be achy. The achiness would cause irritability and lack of sleep. The lack of sleep would cause more irritability and sometimes even cause a lack of appetite. The lack of appetite would cause lethargy and lack of desire to do anything. So the behaviors were achiness, which led to irritability, not able to sleep, stopped eating, and then lack of desire to do tasks. But the trigger was eating foods containing MSG and preservatives. When we recognize the trigger and figure out what is causing the behavior, we can remove the trigger and avoid the behavior. Another example is that our church family are the leaders. Our family is the leaders of our church. My husband is the lead pastor of our church, and I'm also on our church staff. And since we lead our church, our family is the first ones there each Sunday and normally the last ones to leave. So for many years, our family also led a small group Bible study in our home, and it worked out for the small group to meet on Sunday evenings. So after a full morning of many hours being at church, we hosted a group of people in our home on Sunday evenings. This worked for a little while when our boys were little. However, once they all got to be school age, this no longer worked for us. Everyone, including us adults, were exhausted on Monday mornings. In fact, during the last months of hosting the Sunday night group before we stopped doing this, our son with autism would hide in our master bedroom until the group left. It was obvious that it was too much for our family, and we needed to stop leading the Sunday evening small group Bible study. We felt like it was the right thing to do as the leaders of our church. However, it wasn't right for our family. So the behaviors were our son hiding in our home while people were over, our Monday morning routine being very difficult, and starting each week being overwhelmed and tired. But the trigger was having too many activities on Sundays. So we canceled our Sunday evening small group Bible study. We found other people to lead the group that worked well for their schedule, and our family rested after we came home from church on Sundays, and we started each week off in a better place emotionally and physically. Healthy habits lead to a more peaceful home. Recognizing what the cause of behavior and removing the triggers leads to a more peaceful home. So, here's some questions for you as we end this session together. Number 1, what behaviors do you see in your child lately? Number 2, what do you think are the triggers that are causing those behaviors? And number 3, what things can you do to have a more positive and peaceful home? Make a list and start to work on those things today.